a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes. This is the first Thursday of the month, and as always, on the first Thursday of the month, we have none other than Matt Connarton from Matt Connarton Unleashed. And Matt helps us create sanity out of the insane things going on in the world today, from Ukraine to politics that just gives you nausea. And Matt's job is to make it all okay for you. And he comes here once a month, and at the end of the show, you're going to feel good about everything in the world because he's just got such insightful and positive and uplifting ways to look at it. You can find Matt Monday through Friday, 4 to 6, on WMNH 95.3 in Manchester, New Hampshire, or you can go to Matt Connarton on mattconarton.com and listen to it via the internet, where you can call in questions and comments and things like this on his drive-by show. If you'd like to call in comments, help us solve all the problems of the world, which we will do over the next 53 minutes, and share thoughts or ask us questions, 202-7057. That is 202-570-7057. You don't have to agree with us. You just need to be respectful. So you can call in whatever, and if you are disrespectful, you get disconnected. Imagine that. You dish us, we diss you. See how it goes? See, you put up with you put up with the disrespectful because, you know, you got a little shock jock going on in your show, in a way.
I do. Oh, yeah.
Yes, you do. Yes, yes. I don't like my jock in shock. You know, I kind of like it just like hanging out, doing its job. So, Matt, how are you?
I'm okay.
So, fill me in on what have the conversations been on Matt Connarton Unleashed in the last month, or whatever you feel is most important to talk about, because this show is all about you making everybody feel better about living in America.
And the world. I got nothing for you in that case. But yeah, today I was, I actually ended my show talking about the midterms and how it looks like the Republicans are going to take the Senate, according to 538.com, which is usually pretty accurate. And this might surprise you to hear it, but I was on a bit of a rant today about I blame both parties for this. I blame, I should say, let me clarify. A lot of the candidates, many of the candidates who are poised to win are election deniers. And so that's who we're giving control to. And I blame both parties because I blame the Republicans for giving their party over to the crazy. And I blame the Democrats for doing everything they can to prop up and give money and make sure that the crazier of the candidates in many of these elections got the nomination, because Democrats thought, well, we'll get the crazy guy on the other, or gal on the other side of the aisle nominated, and they'll be easier to beat. And I said back over the summer, I may have said it on your show, I can't remember if we talked about this specifically, but I've been saying on my show since probably June, if not earlier, that this was a crazy strategy, that it was not only unethical and in bad faith, but that it was reckless and stupid and could very well backfire. And, well, here we are. We're coming up on the midterms. A lot of these crazy election denier candidates, sure enough, are going to win. And these are the people that the Democrats propped up because they thought they'd be easier to beat. It's playing out exactly how I knew it would. And I'm, when the election results come in, and we've got a bunch of crazy election deniers running things now, the Democrats will be every bit as much to blame as the Republicans for that. They helped this happen. And I'm nauseous when I hear all day, every day, I hear Democrats talking about, our democracy is at stake with this election. Our very democracy is at stake. Well, yes, they're right. It is. But they have played a big hand in risking it. And I just, it's astonishing, predictable, but astonishing. So I'm pretty worked up at both sides of the aisle. It was, I'll tell you what, though, it's been quite a reminder for me as to why I don't want to be a member of a political party and why I'm an independent, and why they're both awful. One is certainly more awful than the other, but the incompetency of the Democratic Party in so many ways, this is just one example, is so shocking. No wonder we lost Roe v. Wade. No wonder no one was prepared for that. I mean, these people are so incompetent. How could they have been prepared for it? What could they possibly have done? They can't get out of their own way. They can't figure out how to win an election, so they make sure that the worst possible candidate is on the other side of the ballot, and then the worst possible candidate on the other side of the ballot, in many cases, is going to end up winning. It's madness. And I don't hear a lot of people calling out the Democrats for what they've done and the role that they've played in this, but they should be. And there's plenty of blame to go around, and I'm upset with everybody. So there you go.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Not only did somebody put a firecracker up your butt, somebody actually lit it.
Yeah.
There's a visual for you.
Well, because I saw this coming. I don't know how, these PACs, these super PACs, whatever, these big money donors that gave all this money. I mean, in some cases it might work out okay. I don't think Doug Mastriano is going to win the governorship in Pennsylvania, but I'll tell you what, Carrie Lake is definitely going to win the governorship in Arizona, and her opponent there won't even debate her. Might as well have just handed Carrie Lake the keys to the governor's mansion. I mean, it's just watching. I mean, and that's a perfect example of the spinelessness of Democrats. What's her name? Hobbs, the Democratic candidate in Arizona. Just the spinelessness. She won't even debate Carrie Lake, and because Carrie Lake is a polished television personality, so she knows she'd probably not do well against Carrie Lake. She all but admitted that's the reason. I mean, they just lay down and die, and then they try to rig it by giving money to these terrible opponents to get them nominated. That's their answer. That's how they're going to save democracy. All they do is they have helped the Republican Party normalize crazy. The Democrats have actually helped the Republican Party to normalize that and make that acceptable and make that fit into the Overton window for Republicans. It's so messed up. It's so messed up. And I don't know why more people aren't calling them out on it, but they will have played, when our democracy is in tatters, the Democrats will have played a very large role in that, and they need to be held accountable as well.
So, I don't dive into it 5 days a week. I don't live it like you live it. But I don't trust any of the polls, even 538. I don't trust any of them. I don't think that they're getting the samplings. I don't think they're talking. I don't trust any of the polls. They all screwed up in the last election. They screwed up in the election before that. The whole poll game is out of date with how to get information out of people. They're not talking to Gen Zers who are showing up in record numbers to vote, larger than they ever have. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that I'm giving up on the idea that the amount of increased registered voters which is phenomenal in some states, like double what it was in the last election, people registered to vote and the amount of people showing up for early voting, I don't think that they're taking that into consideration. I don't think they know how to weigh it. I don't know that they know what to do. And if they fail again, they're going to go, well, it's just crazy times and, and blah, blah, blah. So I am not giving one bit of wasted energy to the polls. I'm looking for, I'm looking at stuff. I'm trying to pay attention to, again, things like the increased number of registered voters, the people that are going early at the polls. And, we have a mess to clean up. I absolutely agree. Both parties are responsible. And maybe this will be a bad enough blow up that democracy won't completely sink and drastic measures will have to be taken to right it. But I'm not going to spend 10 days, because it's probably going to take a couple of days after the polls, but I'm not going to take whatever number of days it is and basically like blow out my adrenal system with listening to polls who have been notoriously inaccurate in the last dozen years, increasingly inaccurate. So I don't know what's going to happen. I agree that they should never have been given a nomination. I mean, in all the other states, it's the Republicans that avoid or blow off to however they can. In Tennessee, the governor refuses to debate the guy. He says he's too busy being governor to debate the guy he's running against in Tennessee. Yeah. But he's on conservative talk radio shows an hour a whack, and he's doing a tour, and he's going around and talking at rallies, but he's too busy as governor to debate him.
Right.
It's usually the Republicans that are not wanting to debate on anything where the crazies are going to show the moderates how crazy they are. So you could be right. You could be wrong. And I'm not giving my power away to the polls. And the ways that the polls get presented are for sensationalism, because that's what sells clicks. That's what sells papers or clicks or gets traffic. And so, they have to have all of these like dire, keep you hooked things. I mean, let's face it. Social media is probably at this point more addictive than heroin. It's a bigger drug. It's harder to get off. And it damages irrevocably everything like a concept of reality. And knowing how to act like a decent person in the world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So I'm just not charging into that fray yet and wringing my hands and letting tears roll down my, the democracy is over. Yeah. We'll find out. Again, you could be right. You could be wrong.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the other stories that are going on, though. I mean, I just saw a little clip of Liz Cheney addressing the Paul Pelosi thing. And
no, I didn't see that. What did she say about it?
Well, in an actually very fair-handed, she talked about how, the unacceptability of violence, that this has been an increasing demonization. It happens from both parties. That, we need to bring it down, that we can have intense civil discourse without going into demonization and violence. She, and she said, the Democrats certainly demonized my father. Of course, there was probably some good reasons for that. But beside that point, the Democrats demonized my father, and the Democrats have been known to demonize. I don't know of any, certainly at the rate of incurring violence that the Republicans have. They're way ahead on that score. But, she called out both parties, and she called out that this was just unacceptable. And that we needed, if we wanted to save this country, we needed to get back to civil discourse. I mean, she didn't say anything brilliant, but she said it well. And she metered out that both parties were guilty of this in their own way, and it was going to take both parties to choose to stop it. And of course, part of that is getting rid of those people who that's the only way they can get elected. So it was a PBS thing that she just was on.
Oh, okay.
Yep. But I thought, God, I know I wouldn't agree with many of this woman's policies. But if somebody said you got to vote for a Republican for president, I think she'd be my first choice.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I mean, yeah, she's very conservative, but she does believe in democracy and protecting democracy, and she was willing to sacrifice her own political career for that, to stand up for what she believes in and her principles, and to not get sucked into the Trump cult. And I admire her. I really do.
Yep. She didn't do what was politically expedient or peer pressured. She stood by her morals, her values, and her goals. And I may not agree with them, but I respect her for the way she did it. And We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for
summer break because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing
a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes. I'm here, as I'm always here on the first Thursday of the month, with my co-host, the sky is falling, Matt Connarton.
Yes.
So you can hear Matt Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. at 95.3 WMNH, Manchester, New Hampshire, or you can go to mattconnarton.com. and you can listen to his drive time show. He tends to go more on politics and world events, and that's why we like to have him here once a month, so we can find how much has the sky fallen this week, Matt, this month. He's also an old friend who I feel very comfortable giving shit to, in case you couldn't tell. So that was the Cheney thing. I do want to see any interesting points or discussions that may have come up on your show around the Paul Pelosi thing, because I think it is still worth discussing. But also, I recently read a little blurb about Paul Ryan, who is slowly edging his way out and making a little more commentary, making a little more here and there. And the thing I read was the strategic way he is trying to make sure that Trump is not the nominee in 2024 without like coming right out and like going after him. But I don't know if you saw that article or not, but I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw the specific article you're mentioning, but I know that he does seem to be kind of inching out back into the limelight. But you know, when he left, he said he wanted to be there for his family, spend more time with his kids and whatnot. I don't know anyone who believed him, and I think that there was a strong sentiment that what his real motivation was. He wanted to get out while Trump was president. He didn't want to have the stench of Trump. He saw what was coming. You know, he's a smart guy. He saw what was coming. He didn't want the stench of Trump on him. And he said, I'm just going to step away and let this play out. And now now he's back, you know, and the timing is all very convenient. And I think he's probably going to run for president at some point. I don't know that it's going to be in 2024, but I do think he'll run for something anyway.
Yeah, I suspect he's just making sure that his name stays out a little bit, that people don't forget him, but he also is testing the insanity level of the Republican Party. And he'll probably go back into hiding for another 4 to 6 years. I mean, you know, if we just had some very interesting things happen, like Abbott lost, DeSantis lost, the Democrats kept the Senate. Oh my God, they kept the House too. That would definitely be a referendum on America about the crazies.
Right.
And in his own way, that's probably in Paul Ryan's nightly prayers. May the Democrats sweep everything, and then I will show back up as a hero to the Republican Party to put them back in their place. Does that not sound like Paul Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be VP for Liz, the VP running mate for Liz Cheney.
Well, he already tried that once. Veep. Maybe he'll run for president, and Liz Cheney can be his Veep.
Well, we'll see.
I don't know if he wants to be the Veep again. I mean, when he was Romney's Veep, it didn't work out. So maybe second time's a charm. I don't think that's ever been done in American history. I don't think anyone's ever run for vice president on two separate tickets at different times. That would be interesting.
Yeah. Well, if he was trying to get back in the game, that would be a way to do it, where he's like, president might be a step too far. Like, I've been out just long enough. It might be a step too far. But of course, you know, if there was ever a country in the world that is phallic focused and phallic worshipers, it's America.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a second-class citizen if it wasn't born with a dick.
Right.
And so it's always going to be until we have at least another 10 or 15% of old, misogynistic, homophobic, closet queer white men die that are in power, it's going to be hard to get a woman elected because,
What, to the presidency?
Yeah.
Well, we came close.
We think closer? Yeah.
Well, I mean, Hillary beat Trump by 3 million votes. So, I mean, it can be done. I think I always thought we would elect. This is not an original idea. Many people have said this, but I always thought we'd elect a woman before we elected a person of color. But then we elected a person of color. So, now it's inevitable. I hope it's inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable. The question is inevitable in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And again, I'm a little older than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't rub it in, Toots. Anyway. But, you remember my friend Dara Jane?
Yes.
Do you remember Dara Jane? Yep. So, yep. When it was Hillary and Obama, she said to me, she was like, they will elect a black man before they will elect a woman. A woman scares the shit too much out of them. And they're going to think that they can manage a black man.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she called that one right down. She was like, yep. She goes, all those old white men, they're having to change their adult diapers with the thought of a woman in the presidency.
Yeah, well, yeah, she called it. She did.
Yep. So, and so anyways, I mean, besides it was a disgusting, cowardly act that clearly was of somebody that was mentally unstable who had drunk the QAnon, blah, blah, maggot Kool-Aid. Talk to me about anything that's been coming up around the Paul Pelosi story for you guys on your show.
You're talking about DePape. I thought maybe you were referring to Kanye West. Yes. We'll
get to him next.
Yeah, I'm kidding, but and what Liz Cheney said, you talked about what Liz Cheney said about how, and there has been political violence on both sides. For example, I remember Republican Steve Scalise being shot at a baseball game, for example. But what is particularly insidious on the Republican side, and it doesn't sound like Liz Cheney addressed this part, is that you've got, because the Republican Party has been so taken over by QAnon and conspiracy theorism in general, as soon as this happened, you had people spreading these rumors, including Trump himself. He went on somebody's show on Newsmax or something, and was talking, and was implying that it was a lovers' quarrel, that Paul Pelosi is gay, this was his lover, they had gotten into a fight, and that's what a lot of Republicans are kind of running with now. These theories that it was that something was going on between these two men, that they were in some sort of a romantic relationship and they had a fight, and that's what all this is. Based on zero evidence to support that. And we know this guy, he wanted to get to Nancy. He said it. He wanted to kneecap her, and set an example, but of course, even on Fox, Jesse Waters hinting at, that there was something else going on here. It's really, disgusting. There's political violence on both sides, but you certainly don't hear Democrats coming up with conspiracy theories, about why somebody shot or why somebody shot Steve Scalise, or why Rand Paul's neighbor assaulted him and sent him to the hospital. So it's really it's disturbing. And of course it gets passed around on the right, and then it gets repeated and repeated until they all just kind of believe it, just like the big lie. just like election denialism. You know, they all start to believe it, and it becomes the mainstream Republican narrative. It's really disturbing.
Yeah. Well, you know, Jen, what is her last name? She was a Psaki. Jen, I saw a thing that Jen Psaki did, you know, talking about this and calling out that when the thing happened to Steve Skolasky, that all of the top Democrats, you know, asked if he was okay, sent him good wishes, reached out to his wife, condemned the person that did it. And, you know, you compare that to this, it says it all.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. I mean, the new press secretary, I've watched her a few times. She's okay, but she's not Jen. Jen was killer in that job. I love Jen. Yeah. But I mean, night and day. Yes, there's political violence on both sides, but I remember no evidence of the Democrats doing anything close to what the Republicans are doing, which is basically trying to make it Paul's fault. You know,
right?
That's what, you know, and so. But it is disturbing, especially when they have tapes, and there's tapes of him breaking in. And there's recorded evidence. And this is the part that is most disturbing is when actual evidence is there. And I see these, I think it's Trevor Noah that does it. I could be wrong, but he has this team that goes out that specifically goes and talks to Trump people, Trumpers.
Oh, Jordan Klepper, I think is his name, is the correspondent on The Daily Show who does that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, the craziest shit comes out of their mouth that you go, how can you live in this world? Like, what did we do in America that allowed this kind of crazy to get this big? I'm not sure, because, you know, like when Ivanka spoke out, not Ivanka. Was it Ivanka? When one of when the Trump daughter spoke out about her first person testimony of what was going on and stuff like this, he literally was interviewing somebody that said, "Oh, well, we all know that was you know, that they had an actress playing the part and it wasn't really her and it was all brought up and she never said that." And I was like, oh my God, like you in reality, it's not that you're not in the same room, you're not even in the same galaxy.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but anyways, so anything else though on the Paul part of the story? Because I'd love to see any comments you had about the whole yeah. But any other comments on the Paul Pelosi thing?
Not really. No, I did just see something that he's been released from the hospital, so that's good. I mean, he's an 82-year-old man, and getting hit on the top of the head with a hammer at any age is potentially deadly. But he has been released, so obviously he is in the process of making a full recovery, which is good to see. No, I have nothing to add really beyond that.
Yeah, well, and of course, they'd want to make it a gay lover's tryst because it breaks right into their perverted. Now, have you seen the clip of the woman that went off on the church that was going after the library?
No, I heard about this, but I haven't seen the actual video.
Oh my God. I am loath to admit, I think I've watched it maybe 5 times.
Yeah?
Because she is screaming like, this is not who we are. We never should have been having this conversation. she called the church that was causing the problems about the drag brunch that happened at the library.
Yeah.
And removing the books. She called them the predators. She said, I would rather have my kids are safer with drag queens than with them. She literally said that she had been molested twice in that church, and then told by those men that it was her fault.
Oh, wow.
And oh my God, it is such a powerful video. If you get a chance to watch it, you really do. I mean, she just went down and up and back down. I don't know what happened. But I do know, but I did watch the video. So
yeah.
Now, have you heard anything about the Kathleen? She is running for New Hampshire State Rep in Rochester. Kathleen Conyer, I think it is. I can pull the name up on next break.
I haven't paid any attention to New Hampshire state legislature races, to be honest with you.
So we will talk about that when we get back here on the Dr. Kevin Show.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
If I could be you.
And you could be me?
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way.
To get inside.
Each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes. It is the first Thursday of the month. We are into our third segment. You can call in and be part of this conversation by calling in at 202-570-7057, 202-570-7057. We only ask that your questions or comments be respectful. And Matt Connarton, as always, is my co-host for the first Thursday, where he brings over all of his insights and wisdom from mattconnarton.com, his drive time show on WMNH 95.3, Manchester, New Hampshire. So if you're not local to Manchester, New Hampshire, but you want to check out Matt's show, you can just go to that website, mattconnarton.com, and you can see that show. That's 4 to 6, Monday through Friday. So I wanted to get her name right, because there is a group called Libtards for TikTok, and they do almost like social media terrorist tactics. And this woman is running for. Her name is Kathleen Cavalario. And
okay.
She is going up against this guy, and they took TikToks of hers, they edited them so that it wasn't saying what she was saying. They reposted them. They put them on Twitter and marked her and tagged her on Twitter so people would see it. She got, I think she said thousands of like feedback and even like threatening voicemails, and they made her look like she was anti-Semitic and anti-American. And they sent out this mailer that she was the crazy TikTok queen after they had doctored and edited her TikToks to say what they wanted them to say. And then once they put the two of them out, they blocked her. And it was such an organized, coordinated campaign, she couldn't do anything until it was already in full force. Like,
oh, wow.
And she's running for a New Hampshire rep seat in Rochester, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Like, this shit is hitting the local level in ways like, really? I mean, she gets paid $200 a year to be a state rep in New Hampshire. She's obviously having to keep another career or something else going. And this kind of like methodical character assassination, like, I'm like, okay, we gotta figure out, there has to be a way to pull this shit down. And
yeah,
I mean, I'm assuming whatever method you use to report something to TikTok, that she reported it. So, I mean, I'm hoping they get their account closed down.
Yeah.
But, so, should we have a couple of chuckles about the fall of poor Ye? In a matter of less than a week, he went from a billionaire down to a paltry $400 million.
Well, I'll tell you, you know what, there's a strange irony to this. So before this all happened, I had been very critical on my show of Candace Owens, and I got a text. I don't think my dad listens to this he listens to my show. I've never gotten any feedback on whether he listens to this program or not, so I don't know if he'll hear this, but he had sent me a text message critical of me, being critical of Candace Owens because he's a fan of Candace Owens. But that all happened before Candace Owens suddenly, because I always thought she was despicable. This was before Candace Owens began defending Kanye West for his anti-Semitic comments. This was right after, because there was the thing with the White Lives Matter shirts at Paris Fashion Week. And then, Kanye, talks about going DEFCON, he means DEFCON, obviously, but he's illiterate, so he says DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. And then Candace Owens is defending him, and I don't know if you watched or listened to her defense of him, but it's just watching someone tie themselves into a pretzel trying to figure out how to be okay with what Kanye said, and basically her argument could be summed up as, well, he didn't say anything explicitly encouraging violence. He wasn't calling for a new genocide against Jews, so therefore no one has a right to be upset. Really bizarre. And it's obvious she's only saying that because they're buddies. If it had been somebody else, if it had been somebody other than Kanye, there's no way she would have been saying that. But I don't know if you know this, but Candace Owens, her husband runs Parler, and they're trying to get Kanye to buy Parler, the failed right-wing version of Twitter, whatever the hell. So she has a business incentive to stand by him through all of this, because they're trying to get him to buy Parler, and he might actually do it, even though Parler's losing money. And most people don't know about that part of it. So I think I've always said she's a grifter anyway. But Yeah, I mean, I guess he's finally gone too far because everyone's running away from him. If he was smart, he would just shut his mouth, call it a career, go into, go live somewhere in solitude with his $400 million and, just live his life. But I don't know who's going to want anything to do with him after this,
J.K. Rowling, maybe?
Why, did she say something defending him?
No, just because people who are trashing their career and their followings that they get away with it because they're uber wealthy. I mean, just think what an Oreo cookie they could make. Yeah. If you're going to spout ignorant things and misuse your power and forget where you came from and basically shit on where you came from, it's like J.K. Rowling shitting on trans people. It's like, do you not think that of the number of trans people that there were, whether they were out or in hiding, if you don't think a large percentage of those people were buying your Harry Potter books so you can basically trash them?
Right.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
Anybody in a marginalized community flocked to Harry Potter, and now you're going to shit on one of these communities? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's not very savvy. I mean, even if that's how she feels, she should, be smart enough not to put that out there publicly. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, whatever character anybody thought J.K. Rowling might have been in the book, she is definitely Dolores Umbridge now. I don't know if you remember that character or not. I don't know how much of a no, I haven't read any of the books. I haven't seen any of the movies. Nah, it never grabbed my interest. Yeah, well, you're one of those privileged white guys that did never have to worry about being, in a disenfranchised community. Well, that's true. That's true. Well, I mean, being a white male in America is a pretty good deal. Yeah, it is. It is. And if you're willing not to be you, it's even a better deal. If you'll just pretend to be what everyone wants you to be, it's a fabulous deal. There you go. Then you have people like me who open up their mouth and say, yeah, screw that shit. Right. So there has also been, if you have not seen it, you need to find it, this black minister that went off on Herschel Walker at the pulpit to one of his, it looked like it was a mini mega church, and talked about how when the Republican Party decided to bring Herschel Walker from Texas to Florida to run, it's because this is a black man who has, since he was 16 years old, been told what to do, what school to go to, who to be by white men. And this preacher goes off on how he is the epitome of the worst representation and tells you what the Republican Party thinks about black men and are only behind Herschel Walker because he will behave and be a good boy. And oh my God, I've watched that one at least 3 times. And but he makes point after point after point, and he keeps on saying, and we don't need a Walker, we need a runner. We need somebody who is going to defend women's rights. We need somebody who is going to make a former president answer a subpoena and show up and take accountability for trying to overthrow the country. We need somebody, and he goes, we don't need a Walker. Oh, this guy is on fire. And there's this whole audience, as far as I could see, most of them were people of color, but not exclusively, but in Florida. He's on a pulpit in Florida saying this. So he's saying it to the people that are voting, and this thing went viral. So
I'll have to look that up. I'm curious to see that.
Yeah. Both of those ones I mentioned are definitely worth looking at. Okay. What else has been going on in the world? Obviously, Russia is getting desperate. I know you follow the whole Ukraine thing really well. Ukraine started to get a way forward. Have you had any shift in your thought or perspective on how that's folding out, or is it just going to go on till Putin's death, or, till Putin's death, basically?
Well, actually, so I think that I haven't heard too many people connect the dots on this, and I'm surprised. But I think Putin at this point might just be playing a game where he wants to maintain, obviously the Ukrainians have made a lot of gains, and then the Russians make some gains. But I think he might just be trying to run out the clock at this point until the new term starts in January, because both Republicans and Democrats have now signaled that they might be withdrawing support for Ukraine. First, Kevin McCarthy, who is very likely to be the next House Speaker, saying publicly that it will no longer be a blank check as far as supporting Ukraine with weapons, even though it's just a fraction of our defense budget, actually, that goes to that. But he said they're going to be looking at that very closely. And, there is a pro-Putin, pro-Russia wing of the Republican Party, and a lot of them are in the House, because the House is where you tend to have the crazy ones. And then there was that letter that leaked publicly, or that was released. 30 progressive Democrats, this came out of Jayapal's office there, who sent that letter to President Biden, saying, hey, we might need to reevaluate some of this, or could you try to maybe make peace directly with Russia? Even though Ukraine, of course, would have to be at the table, can you, try to find a way out of this? So it looks like while polling data shows the American people still support Ukraine, there's cracks beginning to show in both the Republican and the Democratic parties in leadership. So Putin might be looking at that and saying, I'm going to have to see what the new term of Congress brings, because if American resolve is weakening, if Western resolve is weakening, between support weakening in the United States potentially, and of course support potentially during the winter beginning to wane a bit in Europe as Putin tries to freeze them to death, he might be looking at that and saying, geez, I got to hang in there with this, because things might be about to get a lot easier for Russia. So that might be the game he's playing at this point.
So now and you follow this stuff better than I do. That's why I have you on. Isn't Ukraine getting ready? Has it applied? Was it to NATO to be part of NATO? And they're rushing that application. Will that shift anything in this?
No, they're going to be probably joining the European Union. They can't join NATO. NATO can't take them because they're currently at war with Russia. So if Ukraine were to become a part of NATO, then NATO is at war with Russia, which is bad for literally all of us because of what that would escalate into. So no, but they do want to join the European Union. I'm not sure where that stands right now, but it probably will happen. But they will not be joining NATO. I mean, I know that Zelensky would like Ukraine to join NATO, but there's no way. There's just no practical way to do that. Even before the invasion, you couldn't do it because with Russia occupying Crimea since 2014. I mean, how does a country join NATO when a portion of their country is occupied by a foreign power. So even prior to the invasion, it wouldn't have worked.
So it must have been the European Union. I know I read something, but it flashed by quick, and I didn't have time to investigate because I like to try to come on the show and not be a complete idiot. Just a semi-idiot. So it must have been the European Union, because I read somewhere where things were being rushed and moved forward for them to join, and it must have been the Europe. Now, in a month, we're going to see how good were those polls.
Yes, indeed. All right. Look forward to it.
Take care. Bye.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.